The ultrasound photos were tucked carefully in her wallet. 9 months of doctor visits, feeling every kick, singing lullabies to the growing life inside her. But when Ellen asked Lisa Chen how it felt to help create a family, her answer shattered the studio. Like giving away my own child. Lisa Chen, 29, sat in the interview chair with her hand instinctively resting on her still rounded belly. Just 3 weeks after giving birth, she had agreed to be a surrogate mother for the Hendersons, a couple who couldn't conceive naturally, but the emotional reality of pregnancy had overwhelmed every legal contract she had signed. What was supposed to be a straightforward business arrangement had become the most complicated 9 months of her life. The Ellen DeGeneres Show had invited Lisa during their Modern Families Week to celebrate the various ways people create families in today's world. Her story had seemed perfect to producers, a generous woman who had carried a baby for an infertile couple, enabling them to experience the joy of parenthood. Surrogacy was increasingly common, and Ellen's show often highlighted these beautiful stories of sacrifice and love. What the producers didn't understand was that Lisa was living through every surrogate mother's worst nightmare. Despite signing contracts that clearly stated she would have no parental rights, despite understanding intellectually that the baby belonged to the Hendersons, Lisa had bonded with the child growing inside her in ways she never anticipated. She loved this baby as if it were her own biological child. The arrangement had begun as a financial necessity for Lisa, who was struggling to pay for her mother's cancer treatments. The Hendersons had offered $50,000 for her to carry their baby, created through IVF using their egg and sperm. Lisa had convinced herself it would be easy, 9 months of pregnancy, then hand over the baby and move on with her life. Lisa, Ellen began gently, settling into her chair with the warm demeanor that had made her America's favorite daytime host. Tell us about your experience as a surrogate mother. Lisa's expression grew complex, mixing pride and pain. It's been the most beautiful and heartbreaking experience of my life. Ellen sensed the emotional weight behind Lisa's words, the way her voice caught on certain phrases. Beautiful in what way? Feeling her grow inside me every day, Lisa said, her hand moving unconsciously to her belly. Talking to her during those quiet moments at night, knowing I was helping create a miracle for a couple who desperately wanted to be parents. Ellen noticed Lisa's use of possessive language, the way she spoke about the baby. Her? It's a girl? Yes, Lisa said with a soft smile that transformed her entire face. Emma. Her name is Emma Rose Henderson. Ellen felt the tenderness in Lisa's voice, the way she spoke the name like a prayer. That's a beautiful name. And heartbreaking how? Because I have to give her away tomorrow, Lisa whispered, her voice barely audible over the studio's air conditioning. Ellen realized Lisa was speaking about the baby as if it were her own child, not a temporary responsibility. Lisa, can you explain the arrangement to our audience who might not be familiar with surrogacy? I carried Emma for David and Sarah Henderson, Lisa said carefully, as if she had practiced this explanation many times. They've been trying to have children for 8 years, 5 miscarriages. They couldn't have babies naturally, so I agreed to be their gestational surrogate. Ellen understood the basic arrangement, but sensed there was much more complexity beneath the surface. How did you decide to become a surrogate? My mother has stage 4 pancreatic cancer, Lisa explained, her voice steady despite the magnitude of what she was sharing. The medical bills were overwhelming our family. Experimental treatments, specialists, travel costs. We were drowning financially. Ellen felt the desperate circumstances that had led Lisa to this decision. So this was primarily a financial decision. It started that way, Lisa said quietly, her hands twisting together in her lap. The Hendersons offered $50,000, which would cover most of Mom's treatment costs. I thought I could just be a vessel, carry their baby, and help my mother get the care she needed. Ellen sensed they were approaching the heart of Lisa's emotional conflict. But something changed during the pregnancy? Everything changed, Lisa said, her voice breaking. The moment I felt her first kick at 16 weeks, I knew this wasn't just a job anymore. Ellen realized Lisa had experienced a fundamental transformation during the pregnancy. What do you mean? I fell in love with her. Lisa said simply, tears beginning to flow. I know I wasn't supposed to. I signed contracts saying I understood this wasn't my baby. But you can't control what your heart does when you're growing a life inside you. Ellen felt the tragedy of Lisa's situation, caught between legal obligations and human emotion. Lisa, did anyone prepare you for the possibility of feeling this way? The fertility clinic had counseling sessions, Lisa said. They warned about emotional attachment, but they made it sound like something you could just choose not to feel, like you could flip a switch and turn off maternal instincts. Ellen understood the gap between theoretical warnings and emotional reality. But pregnancy doesn't work that way. No, it doesn't, Lisa agreed. For 9 months, Emma responded to my voice. She got hiccups when I ate spicy food. She kicked when I played music. How do you not bond with someone you're that connected to? Ellen felt moved by Lisa's description of the intimate relationship between mother and unborn child. How has this affected your relationship with the Hendersons? Lisa's expression grew complicated, showing both affection and pain. They're wonderful people. They've been nothing but kind and grateful throughout this entire process. They're going to be amazing parents. Ellen sensed there was more to the story. But they don't understand why I'm struggling, Lisa continued. To them, I'm returning their baby. To me, I'm giving away a child I've been mothering for 9 months. Ellen realized the fundamental difference in perspective between the parties. Have you talked to them about these feelings? I've tried, Lisa said. But every time I mention feeling attached to Emma, they get this look of panic. Like I'm going to steal their baby or something. Ellen felt empathy for all parties involved in this complex situation. What don't they understand about your experience? That carrying a baby for 9 months creates a bond that goes beyond genetics or contracts, Lisa said, her voice growing stronger. That I've been Emma's mother in every way except genetically. I've protected her, nourished her, sang to her, loved her. Ellen realized the legal and emotional aspects of surrogacy were in direct conflict. Lisa, what does your contract say about your rights after the birth? I have no rights, Lisa said flatly. The contract is very clear. After delivery, I'm legally required to hand Emma over to the Hendersons and have no further contact. Ellen felt the finality and harshness of that arrangement. How are you preparing emotionally for that? I don't think you can prepare to have your heart ripped out, Lisa said, tears flowing freely now. It's like being told you have to give away your own child. Ellen made a decision that felt both necessary and potentially explosive. Lisa, I need to tell you something. Lisa looked up with alarm. What? The Hendersons are here today, Ellen said gently. They wanted to be part of this conversation. Lisa's face went completely white, and her hands began shaking. What? Why? I'm not ready to face them. They're concerned about you, Ellen explained. And I think it's time for all of you to talk openly about this situation. Lisa was visibly panicking. Ellen, please. I don't want them to think I'm trying to steal their baby. I just need them to understand what I'm going through. Ellen felt the importance of facilitating this conversation. Maybe that's exactly what needs to happen. Ellen gestured toward the wings. David and Sarah, would you like to join us? David Henderson, 38, and Sarah Henderson, 35, emerged from backstage looking like a couple who had been through years of fertility struggles and emotional exhaustion. David was tall and thin, with graying temples, while Sarah was petite, with kind eyes that immediately focused on Lisa with concern. When they saw Lisa's distress, their expressions showed both sympathy and obvious worry about their own situation. Lisa, Sarah said immediately, rushing toward her chair. Are you okay? You look upset. Lisa couldn't meet their eyes, instead staring down at her hands. I'm sorry. I know I'm making this harder than it needs to be. David approached more cautiously, his lawyer's training evident in his measured movements. Lisa, we're not here to pressure you or make you feel bad. We just want to understand what you're going through. Ellen felt the tension in the studio, the weight of competing emotional needs. David, Sarah, "How are you feeling about Lisa's emotional attachment to Emma?" "Honestly, confused and scared," Sarah said, settling into the chair next to Lisa. "We've been trying to have a baby for 8 years. 8 years of disappointment, loss, hope, and heartbreak." Ellen realized the Hendersons had their own trauma that needed acknowledgement. "Tell us about that journey." 5 miscarriages, David said, his voice steady but his eyes showing old pain. "The last one was at 22 weeks. We had picked out names, decorated a nursery, told our families." Sarah was crying now. "After that, the doctors said it was unlikely I'd ever carry a baby to term. Surrogacy became our only option for biological children." Ellen felt the years of accumulated grief behind their hope for this baby. "So Emma represents everything you've been working toward. She represents our future," Sarah said. "Our chance to be parents, our chance to have the family we've dreamed about for almost a decade." Lisa was sobbing now, understanding the weight of the Hendersons' need. "I know how much she means to you." "I do, but she means everything to me too." Sarah looked at Lisa with genuine sympathy mixed with confusion. "Lisa, we're not trying to minimize your experience, but Emma is genetically our child. You've been carrying our baby. Genetics don't create the bond I feel with her," Lisa replied, her voice growing stronger. 9 months of feeling her grow, talking to her every day, protecting her body with mine, that created this connection. Ellen realized they were dealing with competing definitions of motherhood. Is there any legal framework for Lisa to maintain some kind of relationship with Emma? David shook his head, his legal expertise showing. The gestational surrogacy contract is very clear. After birth, Lisa has no legal connection to the baby. That's standard in these arrangements. Ellen sensed this might be where compassion could override legal requirements. But what about emotional or personal arrangements that go beyond the legal contract? Sarah and David exchanged glances, clearly having discussions about this possibility. "We hadn't really considered that," Sarah admitted. Lisa looked up with desperate hope. "I don't want to be Emma's mother. You two are her parents. But I would love to somehow stay connected to her life, even in a small way." Ellen felt an opening for creative problem solving. "What would that look like to you, Lisa?" "Maybe like an aunt or family friend," Lisa said carefully. "Someone who loves her and wants to see her grow up, but respects that you're her parents." Dr. Rebecca Martinez, a reproductive psychologist who specialized in surrogacy issues, joined them on stage. "What you're all experiencing is very common in gestational surrogacy arrangements." Ellen welcomed the expert perspective. "Dr. Martinez, is Lisa's attachment normal?" "Completely normal," Dr. Martinez said, addressing Lisa directly. "Pregnancy creates powerful hormonal and emotional bonds regardless of genetic connection. Your feelings don't make you wrong or inappropriate. They make you human." Lisa felt validated for the first time in months. "So I'm not crazy for loving her?" "You're not crazy at all," Dr. Martinez assured her. "But you also need to understand that the Hendersons' parental rights are absolute, and their concerns about boundary confusion are legitimate." Ellen asked the crucial question that everyone was thinking. Is there a way to honor Lisa's emotional bond while completely respecting the Hendersons' parental rights? Open adoption-style arrangements are becoming more common in surrogacy, Dr. Martinez explained. Lisa could have very limited, structured contact, holiday cards, photos, perhaps occasional supervised visits. David looked uncertain, his protective instincts warring with his compassion for Lisa. "What would that look like practically?" "It would be whatever you all agree on," Dr. Martinez said. "Some families exchange Christmas cards and photos. Others allow annual visits. It entirely depends on everyone's comfort level and the child's best interests." Sarah was clearly considering the possibility, her maternal instincts extending to Lisa's pain. "Would that help you, Lisa? Would knowing Emma is happy and healthy be enough?" "It would mean everything," Lisa said, hope creeping into her voice for the first time. "Just knowing she's okay, seeing her grow up from a distance, having some tiny part in her story." Ellen felt hope building in the room. "David, How do you feel about this possibility? I want what's best for Emma, David said slowly. If having Lisa in her life somehow enriches it rather than complicates it, we should seriously consider it. Ellen made an announcement that changed the entire dynamic. We've actually arranged for mediation services to help you work out an arrangement that could benefit everyone, especially Emma. A family mediator, Patricia Williams, joined them on stage. What we're discussing is called a post-birth contact agreement. It's not legally required, but it can be arranged voluntarily between all parties. Lisa looked hopeful for the first time since the interview began. That's really possible? Absolutely, Williams explained. The Hendersons would maintain complete and total parental rights, but they could choose to allow Lisa specific, very limited contact that everyone agrees on. Sarah was warming to the idea, her compassionate nature taking over. Could we try it and see how everyone feels as Emma grows? These arrangements can absolutely be modified, Williams said. As Emma develops, and as everyone's comfort levels change, the contact can be adjusted or even ended if necessary. Ellen felt moved by the possibility of a solution that honored everyone's needs. What would be the first step? I'd like to visit her once before I leave the hospital tomorrow, Lisa said quietly. To say goodbye properly, and to tell her that I love her but that I'm giving her to people who will love her even more. David nodded immediately. We can definitely arrange that. And maybe, Sarah offered tentatively, we could send photos occasionally. So you can see how she's growing and know she's healthy and happy. Lisa was crying with relief and gratitude. That would be more wonderful than you could possibly know. The episode aired 2 months later, after Lisa and the Hendersons had established their contact arrangement. The response was massive, with thousands of surrogate mothers and intended parents reaching out to share their own experiences and ask for guidance. Lisa visited Emma once, at the hospital, spending an hour holding her and talking to her about the family who would raise her. Then she went home to recover physically and emotionally, while the Hendersons began their journey as new parents. True to their word, the Hendersons sent Lisa photos monthly, along with brief updates about Emma's development. Lisa wrote letters to Emma that Sarah and David saved for when she was older, chronicling her love and the reasons for her sacrifice. 1 year later, they all returned to Ellen's show for a follow-up that had been eagerly anticipated by viewers. Lisa looked peaceful and healthy, while the Hendersons appeared confident and joyful as new parents. Ellen kept a photo from that follow-up show, Lisa gently holding 1-year-old Emma while Sarah and David watched with grateful smiles. It reminded her that the most beautiful families are often the ones that expand to include unexpected love rather than restricting it, and that sometimes the most generous gift isn't just carrying a child, it's trusting others to raise her while remaining a small but meaningful part of her story.